Legacy of the Twin Bound. Chapter 16. Morning light slipped through the lofty canopy like water through lace, turning every petal on the forest floor into a shard of pale gold. Liana woke first. She lay still, feeling Lucian's arm folded around her waist and the weight of fallen blossoms gathered in her hair. His breath warmed the back of her neck in slow and steady tides that matched the hum of their wolves, whose bodies curled at their feet. She did not move for several breaths. Instead she listened, to birds easing into song, to a breeze rustling leaves overhead, and to the soft pulse beneath the ground that had not been there yesterday. Her wolf stirred in her mind. "The land leans in now," the voice whispered, equal parts comfort and caution. She answered silently that she felt it too, a shift, but not yet shadow. Lucian stirred when she shifted onto her back. He opened his eyes, hair rumpled, mouth curved in a content half-smile. He reached to brush a petal from her forehead, thumb drifting down her temple to the mark at her collarbone. The faint rune burned there in the blooming ground's glow. His voice was still thick with sleep. "Morning. Looks good on you." Liana laughed softly. "Petals in my hair and dirt on my cheek? They're proof you dreamed somewhere wild." He leaned to kiss the place just above her brow. His wolf's tail thumped once against moss, emitting a low, satisfied rumble. Across the small clearing, Liora and Lyrian were already awake, sitting shoulder to shoulder beneath a willow, whose branches draped them like delicate curtains. Liora's head rested on Lyrian's shoulder. She watched sunlight finger through leaves while he studied the delicate flutter of her eyelashes. His wolf lay with muzzle across his boots, eyes half closed yet alert. "I never noticed how dawn has a taste," Liora murmured. Lyrian tilted his head. "Like what?" "Like the moment before a tear falls, sweet and a little sharp," she said. "But today it's sweeter." Her hand slid over his, finding the pulse in his wrist. He pressed a kiss into her hair, and for a heartbeat he let himself believe time might stretch this gentle forever. Then the ground's subtle tremor nudged his senses, and the perfect hush shifted. Lyrian's wolf lifted its head. Something underfoot stirs offbeat. Liora's wolf replied, a soft note of concern. "We listen." Liana and Lucian rose, rolling blankets, shoulders brushing. When Lucian straightened, he caught a faint quiver in the petals clustered around a nearby root. They trembled as if inspired by breath. He touched one. It stilled. Yet when he stepped back, the petal quivered again. He met Liana's gaze, questions moving between them without need of words. Companions roused in gentle rhythm. Ella unrolled a small cloth of oatcakes while Kieran coaxed pale notes from his lute. Aidan bounded from his bedding still smelling of sleep and dew. Kaelin greeted him with a ruffle to his untidy hair, before turning sharp eyes to the tree line. Darius and Isara exchanged murmured words about the weather, though Darius's posture betrayed watchfulness. As bowls of simple porridge passed from hand to hand, Liana leaned close to Lucian. "Feel the earth?" she asked under her breath. "Like it swallowed a second heartbeat," he said. "Faint, but there." His wolf added in a low mental growl. "The ground remembers more than we do." Liana's wolf answered, "Memories sometimes shift." When breakfast cleared, Liana slipped her arm through her sister's. "Walk with me before we break camp?" Liora agreed, leaving Lyrian with a promise to return quickly. They moved toward a cluster of saplings washed in sun. Petals floated about them in slow spirals that felt almost contemplative. "I dreamed again," Liora said once distance lent them privacy. A single bloom at the glade's center turned dark, petals curling inward. "I couldn't stop it." Liana squeezed her arm. Dreams warn, not command. She plucked a drifting petal, turning it over. "I worry about losing myself in love sometimes, but I feel more myself than ever." "So do I," Liora admitted. "And still, I fear what love costs." Their wolves padded close behind, adding steady warmth. Liana's wolf nudged her heel. You are not your fear. You are your fire. Lyora's wolf pressed nose to her calf. Love seen is love made real. They paused at a fallen trunk carpeted in moss. Liana sat and nodded toward camp where Lucian and Lyrian talked beside steaming cups, heads bent. They carry our hearts carefully, she said. Lyora leaned against her shoulder. So we must learn to carry theirs. Behind them, shadows stretched where they hadn't a breath before. Liana felt it first, a slight bend in songbird calls, as if notes warped through glass. She frowned, scanning trees. Nothing moved. Yet every petal in a 10-stride radius drifted slower as though air thickened. Back at camp, Lucian's head snapped up. His wolf stood, hackles half raised. Lucian set his cup down, striding toward the sisters. Lyrian followed, eyes narrowing. The wind sighed, then flowed normal, petals resuming their lazy waltz. Whatever had puckered the moment passed. Lyora breathed relief. The land's heartbeat again. Liana nodded. The four wolves exchanged low rumbles that smelled of caution. Kalen approached next, face set. Tree line flickered, he reported to Lucian. Light bent wrong. He kept his voice low so Aiden, humming nearby, would not hear. Behind Kalen, Darius watched the woods, fingers resting near arrow quiver. Liana brushed moss off her skirt and squared shoulders. Let's tell the elders. Under a wide oak near camp's edge, Raven, Lucian the Lichen King, Aldrich, Thalia, Thalos, and the shaman waited, already sensing unease. When the twins and their mates arrived, Raven's gaze searched each face. We feel it too, she confirmed. Thalos planted his staff, eyes narrowed in concentration. Ley lines quiver like strings tuned too tight. The shaman spoke softly. Someone plucks them, drawing energy westward, toward grief and hunger. Lyora swallowed. Varric. Aldrich's jaw tightened. He tests the door before knocking. We leave before dusk, Lucian the Lichen King decided. The ruins of Serathil lie 2 days east. If Varric reaches them first, history twists. Lucian slipped an arm around Liana's waist. Silent agreement. Lyrian took Lyora's hand. The earth's off-beat pulse throbbed again, softer now, but constant. Later, as companions folded tents and doused fire, Liana pulled Lucian toward a secluded stand of birch. The narrow clearing brimmed with dappled sunlight. Neither spoke. They simply rested foreheads together, eyes closed, letting emotions mingle. Their wolves lay nose to nose at their feet. Lucian's thoughts brushed hers like warm breeze. I'm afraid of what I can't see coming. She answered, Fear is warning, not prophecy. Together, they breathed until hearts slowed to equal measure, until the land's arrhythmic pulse softened under the stronger rhythm of their unity. In a sunlit hollow nearby, Lyora and Lyrian stretched on grass. Wind teased strands of her hair across his cheek. He caught them gently, murmuring, I'm scared I'll fail you. She met his gaze, unflinching. Fail only if you leave me behind. He shook his head. Never. She kissed his knuckles, letting their wolves' quiet hum wrap them in certainty. By mid-afternoon, packs were strapped and trails marked. Kalen led point with Kieran scouting opposite flank. Aiden marched between Ella and Isara, who shared a woven basket of berries as morale treats. Darius carried rearguard, arrow ready but relaxed. The company wound eastward through trees that still dripped bloom-scented shade, but petals fell sluggish now, as if weighed by hushed worry. Wolves moved alert but composed, minds half in, half out of human thoughts. Lucian's wolf. You do not guard her alone. She stands with you. Lucian touched Liana's elbow in silent thanks. Lyrian's wolf. The world cannot steal what is freely given. Lyrian felt tension ease from his spine. As the sun lowered, Kalen halted. A narrow gap between pines revealed distant mist swirling over moorland. Faint ruins jutted from haze, broken spires, no bigger than fingernails at this distance, Serathil. A tremor passed through the twins. The wolves stiffened, then settled, understanding both dread and calling existed in that silhouette. They made camp in a meadow ringed by sentinel rocks. Evening light painted long shadows. Cook fire crackled. Yet conversation held lower tones, anticipation heavy. Liana sat between Lucian's knees, leaning back against his chest. He wrapped blanket around both. Liora rested head on Lyrian's lap, tracing patterns in dust with fingertip. Wolves pressed close. Raven addressed group quietly. Tomorrow we step beyond Blooming Ground's reach. Memories there will carry us, but not shield us. Lucian, the Lycan king, added, hold to one another. Fear divides. Love binds. A hush followed. Weight of truth, rather than silence of dread. Later, Aiden slept early, exhausted. Kalen walked perimeter again, spear upright. On his rounds he found another black feather lodged in tall grass, barbs reflecting moonlight. He held it, frowning. He wanted to toss it into fire, but instead tucked it in pouch beside the first emblem of vigilance. Inside main tent, Liana and Lucian lay on bedrolls. Rain-damp cloaks hung drying. He stared at canvas roof, listening to her heartbeat. She spoke without turning. Whatever waits, we meet it together. He enfolded her hand. Together means nothing can unmake us. She said, half asleep. Even if shadows pull, then we pull back. He whispered, kissing her knuckles. Their wolves echoed with twin growls, low and confident. Outside, wind swept petals from blooms still clinging to cloaks, scattering them across sleeping rolls. Close by, Liora whispered to Lyrian that she wasn't sure which frightened her more, silence of dread or roar of battle. He answered softly that as long as their hearts sounded in unison, noise would be music. She drifted off with his words, humming inside. Moon drifted west. The ground's offbeat throb continued, subtle yet undeniable. But above that strange rhythm, 4 hearts beat woven, a steadier drumming line that would soon face whatever echo waited in ruins ahead. Lucian woke before dawn to a chill where his shoulder had slipped from the blanket. The camp lay quiet, breath clouds rising from every sleeper. Fire burned to a faint ember glow. He considered rolling back into warmth beside Liana, but a tug in his chest asked him to stand. He eased free of her arms, tucked the blanket close around her, and rose, wolf sliding from its curled position to shadow him in silence. The meadow glistened under frost so fine it looked like stardust. Beyond the ring of sentinel stones, grass bowed under weightless ice, and the sky wore 1,000 quiet sparks. Lucian breathed deep, tasting pine and cold, and something less familiar, the faint metallic tang of unsettled magic. His wolf's hackles rose, but its thoughts were calm. Be still. Listen. He walked a slow circle of camp, checking every tent tie and bundle. At the far edge he found Kalen, wrapped in a cloak damp with dew, leaning on his spear. The warrior held a feather between thumb and forefinger, black, glossy, and long. Their eyes met in mute understanding. Third one tonight, Kalen said under his breath. It drifted in from nowhere. Heirs dead calm. Lucian examined the feather. It was heavier than it looked, as if it carried more than barbs. He slipped it into his belt beside the others Kalen had collected. We use them as markers, he said quietly. Every feather a sign that Varric can reach across distance when hearts open. Kalen gave a measured nod. Noted. But hearts stay open. Lucian's wolf padded closer. Feathers are warnings, not chains. It said in the private voice only Lucian could hear. Lucian agreed aloud. Varric can watch, but watching and touching are different wars. They completed their circuit, catching sight of Darius finishing his shift at the opposite perimeter. The archer raised 2 fingers in silent report. No movement. Lucian answered with a nod. As dawn's first lavender touched the sky, the meadow stirred. Wolves lifted muzzles, drawing long breaths. Liana emerged from tent, blanket draped around shoulders, dark hair tousled. She found Lucian across the fire ring, expression thoughtful. She crossed to him, taking his hands, rubbing warmth into cold fingers. "You slipped away," she murmured. "Gathering light for you," he said, pressing her knuckles to his lips. Her wolf brushed against his leg, tail wagging once. She leaned into his chest. "Then let me carry some for you too." Breakfast began with hushed chatter. Ella ladled warm barley porridge into wooden bowls, adding dried pear slices. Aiden offered each bowl with a grin, proclaiming pear moons for courage. Everyone accepted. No one refused such earnest hope. While they ate, the sun rose higher, turning the frost to sparkling water. With it came another faint ripple through soil, like a stone dropped in a distant pond. Everyone felt it, porcelain tremor that touched heartbeats, then slipped away. Liora's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. Lyrian's gaze snapped to hers. Wolves stiffened, then settled. Raven addressed camp. "The land speaks again." She glanced toward the ruins, still hazy in eastern distance. "We move soon." But first, the group performed a leaving rite for the blooming grounds. Each person knelt at the meadow's edge, palm pressed to soil. Liana whispered thanks for petals that taught bravery. Lucian thanked the glade for showing him how love steadies fear. Liora whispered gratitude for stillness, and Lyrian, voice low, thanked the land for teaching him to feel peace without guilt. Even Kaelin placed a hand on ground, promising vigilance. Aiden, last in line, crouched. "Thank you for making them glow," he said. Then he stood tall, satisfied. The company packed quickly, each movement smooth from long practice. Tents rolled, blankets strapped, fire pit buried. Before stepping onto trail, Thalos tapped staff on stone, murmuring a blessing. "Let threads of love remain behind you so what hunted cannot follow." The path toward Serathil sloped downward, snaking among low ridges mottled with heather. The morning sun warmed cold bones, but did nothing to ease the odd pulse underfoot. Wolves trotted uneasily, ears swiveling even when the forest seemed quiet. Liora's wolf breathed that the heartbeat now matched their steps, half beat behind, a shadow rhythm. Mid-morning, Kaelin signaled a halt. The trail ahead passed beneath an arch of jagged rocks, too narrow for pairs. One by one they slipped through, wolves first. Lucian guided Liana, hand resting on her back. Inside, the stone corridor, voices echoed strangely. Even breath sounded foreign, distant. When they emerged, each felt a brief spike of sadness they could not explain. Thalos explained once everyone gathered. "Blade line twist," he said. "Varric drags at threads like playing strings. We walked through ripple." Lucian met Liana's eyes, both recognized sensation from before. "We keep hearts steady," he murmured. She nodded. They pressed on. By noon, clouds dulled the sky. The wind gained teeth, whipping cloaks. Kaelin found a shelf of rock that shielded them long enough for midday meal, flatbread with herb paste and slivers of cheese. Conversation was low but not bleak. Liana nudged Lucian's shoulder. "Tell me a light memory," she said, searching his face for the spark of his storytelling grin. He thought a moment, then smiled. "When I was 5, I tried to race a doe uphill. She darted left, I kept forward and plowed into nettles. Took 3 days before I stopped itching." Liana laughed, head back, sound ringing bright. Even wolves perked, tails thumping ground. Liora asked Lyrian to share one, and he recounted his first training session with wooden swords, how he swung so wide he toppled backward into pond muck. She laughed until tears formed, and for a heartbeat they all felt the ground's echo fade beneath warmth of memory. The wind shifted, cold seeped again. They packed and resumed footing. Kaelin walked point with Aiden now beside him, eager to scout. The boy pointed at cloud shapes, claiming one looked like Liana's wolf sprinting. Kaelin played along, grateful for his presence. Late afternoon, the trail crested a rise and opened onto a flat stretch of heath, where thin mist hugged ground. The ruins showed clearer, broken spires, cracked archways, stone shards, half buried in moss. Serathil seemed both ancient and freshly wounded. Seeing it tightened every chest. Wolves emitted low, throaty growls, not aggressive, but wary. Lucian pressed Liana's hand. We stopped short camp before dark. Darius scouted a cluster of beech trees near a shallow brook. Cloaks pitched as wind breaks, fires built low to avoid notice. Water-filled skins, berries harvested for supper. Thalos advised burning sage to mask emotional scent. The shaman sprinkled ground with powdered quartz that glimmered faint pink and dulled tension. In fading light, Kalen approached Lucian and Liana. I counted 7 black feathers on Ridge Trail, he said quietly. Dropped fresh. Lucian frowned, accepting them. They felt heavier than earlier feathers. Liana held one, felt an icy prickle crawl to her wrist. She let it drop, wiping palm on tunic. We burn them, Lucian said. They fed each feather to fire. Flames flared green for a blink, then settled. Camp meal was quick. Thick soup, wild thyme bread warmed on stones. After, Raven gathered twins and mates for council. She and the Lycan king sat upon a low log, Thalia and Aldrich flanking. Lucian, the Lycan king, began. Our intelligence says Varric's priests attempt to twist ley lines near Serathil. They feed on regret, grief, longing. These black feathers are markers, tokens of that resonance. Liora tucked hair behind ear, voice soft yet firm. Then we cut the cord. The shaman nodded. Not with blades, but with clarity. Serathil's heartstone housed the first oath of twin bond. If your love shines there, it can seal cracks Varric pulls. Lyrian's brow furrowed. Seal how? By giving grief no place to cling. Thalos answered. Love spoken, fear confessed, hope promised. He gestured at all 4. Together. Liana's wolf murmured, You are not your fear. You are your fire. She straightened, looking at Lucian. We do it. Plans formed. At sunrise, they would enter ruins, carrying only what they needed. No heavy weapons, minimal guard, so energy stayed pure. Darius and Kalen disliked leaving them lightly defended, but accepted wolves and mystics as shield. Later, as night inked sky, twins and mates sought quiet. Liana led Lucian to brook's edge. Moonlight silvered water. Stones shone faint. She knelt, scooping handful, watching droplets sparkle off fingertips. My mother once told me strength is choosing what stays soft, she whispered. Lucian crouched, dipping fingers too. Then softness is our sharpest blade. He let water trickle across her knuckles, thumb caressing wet skin. Their wolves lay opposite bank, heads on paws, watching stars. She spoke truth, from deepest place. I'm scared. Not of battle, but of losing who we are. He cupped her face with both hands. We are choices repeated, he said. We will keep choosing. He kissed her softly, pouring steadiness into trembling spaces. Across camp, Liora sat on blanket beneath beech boughs. Lyrian knelt before her, holding both her hands. Wind stirred leaves, letting moonlight flicker like unseen fireflies. I hide parts of me still, he confessed. Slivers of doubt. She smiled gently. I'll help you unwrap them. Her wolf added in thought. Love seen is love made real. His wolf rumbled. Gratitude. He lowered his forehead until it touched hers. If tomorrow grief claws, I will name joy louder, he vowed. I will stand between you and doubt. She whispered. We stand side by side, remember? He kissed her, slow and certain. In that hush, the ground's offbeat pulse softened, lulled by promise. Leaves quieted, wind easing. Near midnight, Kalen took first watch again. Sky cleared to raw starlight. He swept perimeter, noting every rustle, every owl glide. At brook he paused, seeing Lucian and Liana still under willow, heads bowed together. Their wolves met his gaze, then returned to serene watchfulness. Peace, even fragile, still shone. He paced on. Halfway round he spotted faint flicker above Ruin Ridge, a pinprick of red, extinguished quick. Signal fire, maybe. He gripped spear but did not wake camp. Nothing moved after. He resumed rounds, trusting dawn to bring clarity. In dreams, Liana walked a hall of shattered mirrors, each fragment showing a future, some bright, some stained with shadow. Yet Lucian's hand found hers in every reflection. Liora dreamed of a field of blackened blooms. When Lyrian knelt and pressed palm to earth, color flooded petals anew. Wolves prowled these dreams, chasing dark wisps until dawn's pale breath ended night. Sun rose crisp. The offbeat pulse still lingered, but the twins' hearts drummed louder. They rose, clasped hands with mates, and stared east toward broken spires waiting in mist. A petal floated on a breeze, landing between them. As they watched, its pink drained to gray. Liana picked it up, placed it in Lucian's palm. Then we bring color back. He closed fingers gently around petal, feeling warmth return faintly where her skin touched. Wolves stood, shoulders squared, ready. Companions formed behind, less to lead than to witness. Raven and Thalia's eyes glistened with both pride and worry. Thalos lifted staff, voice deep but soft. Go with love. Speak truth. Let ruin remember grace. The twins and their mates stepped forward, wolves pacing at heels. The morning wind carried scent of moss, dust, and possibility. And though the petal in Lucian's hand still bore a gray edge, its center pulsed faint pink, spark of color eager to grow beneath touch of fearless hearts. The company set out while dawn still tasted of dew and unlit hope. Ahead, broken spires jagged the pale horizon like bones of a forgotten beast, each one painted gold on one side by the newborn sun, the other side drowned in shadow. Lucian held Liana's hand as they crossed the meadow where last night's frost had surrendered to warmth. Each step pressed dark footprints into grass, but the prints filled moments later, with fresh green, as if the land insisted on healing behind them. Kaelin and Darius took the lead over a shallow rise, wolves ranging beside. Aiden walked just behind, determined to prove himself steady. Kieran hummed softly, a thread of melody no stronger than an exhale, but the tune lingered like a charm against the hush. They reached a ridge of slate rock, its edge crumbly, overlooking a gentle valley. Liana drew in breath, struck by how small the world looked from here, how wide the sky. Wind plucked at her braids, scattering stray petals, still clinging from blooming grounds. Lucian tucked one behind her ear, fingers brushing warm skin. He murmured, "Even in gray light you stay the brightest color." She leaned into the compliment, but her lips curved with a question. "Do you feel how the ground hums louder the closer we come?" He nodded. His wolf added, "A drum under stone, half wild, half wounded." Liana's wolf answered, "We keep rhythm with our own hearts." Hours passed in careful marching. Thorny brush snagged hems and the earth changed texture, soft moss giving way to gray dust. Wolves snorted, sneezing when the powder tickled snouts. Liora walked with Lyrian near the center, their conversation a quiet weave of observations and reassurances. "Part of me wants to run back to the meadow," she admitted. "And part of me wants to run forward," Lyrian answered. She lifted her brow. "And which part of you wins?" "The part that remembers who walks beside me," he said simply, interlacing their fingers. Her wolf crooned satisfaction. Lyrian's wolf rumbled. 2 steps together, none alone. They stopped for midday under a granite arch where the earth dipped into shallow bowl, dotted with star bloom, a night-scented plant that somehow flourished in morning shade. Ella spread a cloth, and Isara produced parcels of smoked venison and fig bread. Aiden poured sweet water from his canteen, offering each cup with gravity of a master steward. Ravens landed on the arch, tilting heads, but the wolves bristled in silent warning, and the birds took flight. As they ate, a low thrumming vibrated through the bowl. Bowls rattled, stones shifted. A ripple passed down Liana's spine. She set her cup aside. "It's stronger here." Thalos planted his staff at bowl center. The tip glowed faint rose, then pulse snapped into harsh green before dying. "Ley lines split underfoot," he murmured. "We cross a seam Varric has twisted." Lucian unrolled the feathers Kalen had collected, now cradled in cloth. He held them like fragile arrows. "Do these track our steps, or lure us?" he asked. "They respond to tension," the shaman said. "Fear thickens their thread. Love thins it." Lucian looked at Liana. She placed her palm against his, nails brushing calloused fingers. The feathers drooped, losing unnatural luster. A quiet awe ran through onlookers. Darius cleared throat, muttering that maybe hearts were a better shield than steel. The march resumed, the path turned rocky. Cracks veined ground, some deep enough to swallow ankles. They slowed. Liana slipped once, but Lucian steadied her with swift hand at her waist. Their eyes met. A silent promise passed. She tested another step and found footing surer than fear. Afternoon light tilted west, shadows lengthened. The ruins now stood close enough to see carvings weathered into pillars, spiral motifs, twin crescents, broken runes eroded by centuries of wind. A hush fell. Wolves trotted slower, paws padding with almost reverence. A dry riverbed crossed their course and strewn with bleached stones. In its center rose a pedestal half buried, large enough for a single person to stand. Liana felt heat ripple from it, though air remained cool. She approached without thinking. Lucian reached for her shoulder. She turned and smiled, telling him without words that curiosity outweighed caution. He followed. On the pedestal's cracked surface lay a relief of two entwined circles. Liana's rune mark pulsed beneath her cloak. She placed fingertips on stone. A faint warmth thrummed back, syncopated with the offbeat pulse deep underground. Her wolf whispered, "The past wants to speak." Lucian placed his hand beside hers. Light seeped from cracks thin as thread, weaving around their wrists. No pain, only odd comfort. Images fluttered behind their eyes, two figures standing where they now stood, centuries ago. Palms joined as petals of fire spun around them. The image vanished, leaving only the humming connection. Liana withdrew slowly. Lucian's wolf exhaled. Echo, not trap. Meanwhile, Liora and Lyrian explored an archway collapsed on one side. Vines threaded broken blocks, small blue blossoms peeking through. Lyrian brushed them lightly. They released spicy scent, unexpected but soothing. He plucked one bloom, tucked it behind Leora's ear. "You bring beauty into ruin," he said. She answered by kissing his cheek. Her wolf sent playful spark. His wolf wagged tail, then jerked alert. Faint tremor, not of earth, but of mind. A flicker behind broken pillar, just trick of light. But Lyrian tightened grip on Leora's hand. They rejoined group. Kalen motioned everyone into loose defensive shape. "Light bent again," he stated. "Like heat above desert sand." Aiden shivered, eyeing jagged windows and a toppled wall. Ella guided him behind her, hand atop his head. Raven addressed the twins. "You feel pull strongest. Where does path lead next?" Liana, closed eyes, breathed. Offbeat throb tugged east, deeper into ruins where a cracked tower leaned, its tip touching sky like trembling finger. She pointed. "There." The company proceeded. Wind slid through broken corridors carrying echoes of distant voices, words indistinct, perhaps illusions. Wolves growled low but pressed on. They reached a courtyard with mosaic floor half shattered. In its center, a heart-shaped slab stood upright, split down middle. On each half, mirrored runes once formed a single phrase, now broken. Liora stepped forward, guided by instinct. Lyrian held her other hand. Liana and Lucian mirrored them on opposite side. 4 wolves formed circle outside, tails lifted, ears pinned forward. The offbeat pulse climbed into their souls, up spines settling behind eyes. Each twin's rune mark ignited faint glow. A hush like held breath fell. Even wind paused. Liana spoke first, voice steady but laced in wonder. "We stand in place where bond was first named." Her words awakened vibrations under shattered tiles. Lucian added, "We speak not prophecy, but choice." His voice rang like a note struck on crystal. Liora continued, turning to face Lyrian fully. "Love seen is love made real." Lyrian's answer followed without hesitation. "And the world cannot steal what is freely given." Light surged, filling cracks of courtyard. The broken slab pulsed. Runes shimmered golden, bridging the gap with shafts of brightness. For heartbeat moments, the slab appeared whole, message legible though no one could translate aloud. Wolves howled, low and unified, a sound like mountains singing. The offbeat pulse aligned with their heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, then faded into perfect quiet. Silence shattered as air split with a cold snap. Above tower tip, a rip opened like torn cloth, revealing ragged darkness shot through with burgundy lightning. A sigh of energy rushed out. Not strong, but enough to bend grass, swirl dust. A faint crow call echoed, and a thin rain of black feathers drifted into courtyard, landing on glowing mosaic. Aiden cried out from behind Ella. Even Kaelin flinched. Feathers hissed, edges burning silver where they touched tiles, but the slab's glow did not dim. Instead, cracks sealed anew where feathers landed, turning black barbs to ash. A single ash wisp curled into air, dissolving. Lucian squeezed Liana's hand until their knuckles blanched. Sweat dotted his brow, but his gaze steadied. "Our bond holds," he said. Liana's wolf barked defiantly. Liora and Lyrian tightened grip, eyes locked on slab pulsing calm. The rip overhead shrank with audible groan. Threads of dark stitching closed as though invisible hands pulled them. Final spark flared, then sky smoothed, leaving only wisp of cloud. Everyone exhaled at once, the slab's glow eased into warmth. The offbeat pulse returned softer, steady, not jarring. Liora brushed fingertips across new seam where stone had repaired. "It listened," she whispered. Raven approached, tears bright. "You mended what grief tried to sunder," she said, voice brittle with awe. The shaman noted faint shimmer still swirling around twins like slow fireflies. She murmured, "Love reharmonizes lines." Thalos leaned on staff, eyes wet. "Varric felt you, make no mistake," he warned gently. "He will not rest." But pride lit his features. Aldrich agreed. "If he manipulates sorrow, we answer with courage." Kaelin knelt, gathering what remained of black feathers, now dust mixing into soil. He poured dust onto palm, watched wind scatter it. "No more markers," he muttered. Evening bled rose across stone. The group exited courtyard, leaving slab glowing softly behind. Wolves trotted lighter, tongues lolling, not carefree, but unburdened. They camped near southern wall, where moss-cushioned ground and wind was blocked. As fires sparked, Lucian wrapped arms around Liana, whispering, "I felt future trying to fracture us." She pressed lips to his throat. "We bound it back with today." Liora and Lyrian lay on blanket looking up at first stars. He traced constellations on her palm. She told him the sky looked closer than ever. He said, "Because we raised each other higher." Her laugh trembled with relief and love. After supper, Kieran played gentle tune. Ella hummed. Aiden lay with head on Kaelin's lap, drifting to sleep. Wolves settled around circle. Thalos offered final reflection. "When love sings true, echoes answer," he said. Tonight, echoes sang our names. Silence wrapped camp. Petals from distant meadow floated on unseen current, carried through broken arches. One landed in embers, edges turning dark. Another drifted to Lucian's palm, pink fading to gray. He lifted it, studying. Liana placed hers atop his, color seeping back into both at their touch. A soft glow lingered before winking out, leaving petals pale rose once more. The twins and their mates rose, walking to crumbled parapet overlooking moonlit plain. Wolves formed quiet guard. Together they stared into mist, where darkness gathered behind hills, their hands linked, a living chain. Lucian spoke first, steady. Whatever walks out of that night, we meet it side by side. Liana smiled. With hearts loud enough to drown its silence, Liora added, and hope bright enough to paint it new. Lyrian finished. Because we choose, each morning, to love louder. Wind carried their words forward. Behind them, ember glow painted warm arcs on stone. Ahead, horizon pulsed faint, waiting. A final petal spiraled down between them, landing on ground. Its pink hue drained as it touched dust, shading to iron gray. None flinched. Liana knelt, collected it, and tucked it in belt pouch. For reminder, she said. They turned back to camp, wolves pacing smooth, hearts beating one rhythm. Night settled like cloak. In its hush, love's echo rang strongest, guarding dreams against the ripple of distant thunder that promised dawn would bring trials, but never without answers shaped in fearless warmth of intertwined souls.